You turned out.
One more second.
Make sure you remind them to, when they present, to stay here. So
I did. Yeah.
All right. It's all right to expand. Ready?
What should I make the Zoom? What should I?
You gotta have to, this time, there's no forward, always. No, just put Hill District Community Meeting for today, so District Community Meeting. Chuck said it was you to repeat.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Hill District.
All right, everyone, we are going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. We just want to do a quick tech check because, as you all know, we always do a Facebook Live for our meeting. I think somebody's phone alarm is going off, by the way. So quick tech check. Okay, good. All righty. So my name is Marimba Lyons. I'm president and CEO of the Hill CDC. Thank you for being here. I think we're live and everybody can hear us online, but please let us know if we are having any technical difficulties. We're going to jump in. We have a robust agenda as we generally do. Most of you are familiar with the Hill CDC, but in case you're not, we're going to do just a little bit of background for you here. We'll first go through the agenda. So today we're going to talk a little bit about programs and events. New Granada Square will have 2 DRP presentations. So we'll do a review of the development review panel process. And then we have guests and developers here to present to you for your opportunity to score, Rhythm Square and Herron and Wylie. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Greater Hill District Master Plan adoption and the CHOICE project. All right. And last but certainly not least, the Lower Hill. All right. So we have a few housekeeping rules. One is to have fun and be in community with one another. We will take limited questions after specific agenda items if time allows. Sometimes we are really tight on time. And online users, please feel free to drop questions in our FB Live chat. So we will pull your questions if we can to get to those and make sure that you can participate. And then, of course, you'll also have an opportunity to ask questions live here. And we want to make sure that we're respecting each other at all times. So, you know, it's a community. There are times where we disagree. There are times where we disagree vehemently. And that's okay. But we try to keep it clean, no name calling, no disrespecting one another. And so we just want to be in community, and we can hold each other accountable while being in community. Okay, is that a deal? All right. All right, so let's move on. So a little bit about the Hill CDC. The Hill CDC is a place-based organization, and we are focused on the revitalization, the economic revitalization of the Hill District neighborhood. We oftentimes say we are where cultural legacy meets future innovation. And of course, we've been around for 37 years. So we've been doing a lot for a long time. And we're going to keep on, mainly because of you. So most of you know our mission is to work in partnership with residents and stakeholders to create, promote, and implement strategies and programs that connect plans, policies, and people to drive compelling community development opportunities in the Greater Hill District. We work with people, place, and we do a lot of policy advocacy. I always say that our policy and planning work is what gets us in trouble, but it's good trouble and it's necessary trouble. As most of you know, we cannot progress as a community without getting into some good trouble. Okay, so the real estate development that we do is mostly focused on the commercial core and home ownership. The economic development programs are business and home and entrepreneurship and home ownership preparation. And we also work with a lot of artists and culture workers, okay? And then our planning and policy work is where we may be working on projects like CHOICE or the Center Avenue planning process and those types of things. And we normally involve community deeply when we're planning because what do they say? If you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? And if someone's planning for you and you're not on the table, the plan really isn't for you, okay? So that's why we have these kinds of meetings. That's why we are consistently engaging community in all types of planning processes, because you need to be critically and centrally involved in determining the future of this neighborhood. And last but certainly not least, we're into equitable development. We tell people all the time, we are not a development organization focused on displacement. We are not a gentrifying CDC. Those things do exist, but that would not be us. And so if that's what your plan is about, it's probably going to struggle a little bit in partnership or in relationship with the Hill CDC, because we are focused on uplifting the community's master plan, which calls for clear anti-displacement measures and anti-gentrification. Okay, so I'm going to invite Diane Day up to talk a little bit about some of our programs and hopefully invite you to a few things.
So first of all, it's beautiful to see all your faces. Summer is almost over, so we're getting ready to go back inside. So I have wonderful things for you to do once you go back inside. This event that I want to talk about is actually outside. It's at our beautiful August Wilson house. We are going to be hosting this Sunday at on the 8th, a pre-reception to the play Radio Golf. How many of you are familiar with the Radio Golf play that August Wilson wrote? I see a few hands. Great. So come on out. Let's do this as a community. Let's have an opportunity to actually watch the play. It's being hosted by the Pittsburgh Playwright Theater. And right before the play, starting at 5:30, we're going to do just a pre-reception, just an opportunity to get together as a community, eat a little bit of food, talk about the play, and then watch the play together as a group. So if you haven't already bought your tickets, I am going to encourage you to go onto our Facebook page. This flyer is here. There's also some flyers out there in the hall. Grab it, make sure you get your ticket, and come on out with us that evening. It's going to be a fun night to watch radio golf. This is my first time seeing the play, so I'm super excited. Everything I've ever seen with August Wilson is always fabulous. So this is a great opportunity for you to come out with your friend, with your date, with your family, just to enjoy a nice night in the community. So I definitely want you to be there. And then how many of you guys have joined us for our second Friday food bank? I see some of my volunteers here. Okay. Every second Friday of the month, we do a food distribution. We have partnered up with the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank, and we give out food. And I mean a lot of food, a lot of fresh fruits, a lot of vegetables. Now we're getting meat. We have produce such as dairy, milk, eggs, and bread, and the list goes on. So if you're not taking advantage of that, I encourage you to come down to our Volcy building, which is on Center Avenue. The address is 2145 Center Avenue. And we open the doors at 11 o'clock. That's when we start. And the food is usually gone, at least the good items, by 1:30. And it's open to anyone and everyone. We don't have the big sign-in sheet like some of the food distribution centers do. We just have a quick sign-in sheet. You just sign your name, your email, your address, your phone number, and then you get your box. I will encourage you though, bring a tote bag, bring a couple tote bags because it's a lot of food, or bring a box. You also, if you're able to drive, it would be best that you have a car or some way to transport the food. And I do encourage you to understand that there's a wait. So usually by 9 a.m., there's a line forming around the building. So I want to make sure that if you're coming, that you understand, come early. The good food is gone usually by 11:30, 12 o'clock. And by 1 o'clock, we're usually wiped out. Okay. So, and I do want to take a few minutes to thank our volunteers, because we couldn't do this without you. The volunteers are the type of people that if they see you struggling with your bag or your box, they'll walk you to your car. We've even had a few people run down to the New Granada Square Apartments to help those tenants out. So please come out. If you have family members that need food, bring them to the event. That there definitely will be taken care of for the community food bank. How many business owners do I have in the room? Anybody have a business? Ah, okay. Well, every month we have opportunities for business owners to sit down with our Small Business Development Center partners. We have partnered up with the University of Pittsburgh, Chatham University, and also Duquesne. And they actually come to the Hill to make it more convenient for our business owners. And so they will help you with your business plan. They'll help you with your scale-up plan, your hiring opportunities. And we also work with the Neighborhood Development Community Fund. She will help you find money to support your business. And if you're looking to become a MBE, WE certified business, they are also coming to our center every month. So I encourage you to pick up one of the flyers out in the hallway if you're a business owner and you want to know when these meetings are going to be. You just simply need to sign up and come up to the Hill District and we'll get you started. Okay. If you want to become a business owner, we also encourage you to take advantage of these classes. They'll get you started. All right. Anybody looking for a home? Let me see. Okay. I see a couple hands. So if you're a first-time homeowner, if you're a first-time potential homeowner buyer, we have classes for you. And if you're looking to buy a home and you haven't bought a home in, I think, 10 years, these classes you would also qualify for these classes. What you're going to learn and what you'll be understanding is there's funding out there for individuals who qualify for your purchasing of your home. And so I encourage you to, again, pick the flyer up out of the hallway. Make sure that you're attending these classes so that you can get credit. So when you're talking to the bank, you can tell them that you've went through the first time homeowner class, you're qualified, you have your certificate, and that you can begin to take advantage of the resources that are available out there for you. And if this class isn't for you, maybe you have someone in your family, like a son or daughter that's living with you, that you're trying to get out of your house, this is an opportunity. All right, I've been there, done that. All right. This is a event called the Community Living Room that is very close to our heart. We've teamed up with the University of Pittsburgh Center for Urban Education. Several of their professors have come out and developed a wonderful curriculum that really talk about different topics regarding the African-American experience. And it's an opportunity where the community comes together in our Volcy Art Gallery. We just sit down and we have these open dialogues about things that have occurred, things that are happening in our community that allow us to really discuss them, come up with action plans, have opportunities for healing, and just really get things that have been bubbling out. And so I love to have this, I love to have the opportunity to say what happens at the community living room stays in the community living room. And so it's a free, safe space to have conversations that are sometimes difficult to have. And that sometimes you just need to bounce it off of someone else. You just need to talk to someone about it. And it's a good opportunity for us all to come together and acknowledge that this experience isn't easy. This experience isn't for the light of heart. And in order to make it, sometimes we just kind of come together, hold each other up, and help us move on to the next level of life. So if that's you or you know someone, I would encourage you to come. The next one's going to be on September the 19th at 5:30. Again, it's in our Volcy Art Gallery on Center Avenue, on 2145 Center Avenue. And again, the flyer is outside in the hallway. All right. Do I have any line dancers in the room? Now, I have a question. Okay, I see some hands. So how many of you guys knew Mr. Roland Ford? Anybody know? Okay. So in honor of him, and we do recognize that he was the dance king of Pittsburgh, right? He's no longer with us. He's dancing in heaven at this point. But he left some really dynamic people in his, to carry out his legacy. And we actually have one of his students. Her name is Rose Johnson. Beautiful, beautiful woman that will take the time and teach you as a group, or if you want one-on-one, how to do all those line dances that they're doing all around the city of Pittsburgh. So I encourage you to come out. And here's the question we're trying to figure out. Do we need to do it in the daytime, or do we need to do it in the evening time? That's the question we're trying to figure out. So you can answer that for me real quick. If we had a line dancing event in the evening, how many of you guys would show up? Let me see your hand. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So that might be what we will do in the future. But if you're available on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I encourage you to come out, get your groove on, learn how to do the Hill District Shuffle. She named it after you guys. And all those other dances. And the goal is so that you guys could go to the parties that they have all around the city all year long. So we want to make sure the Hill District represents at these events. And how many of you guys know about those events? Anybody ever go to one of their line dancing parties? Oh, y'all don't know. You gone? Don't they get dressed up? Nice food. And I mean, they are partying, right? So this is an opportunity for you. If you don't have a social life, this is how you get your social life. Okay. And a lot of us now, what do? We go home, we work, we get up, we go to work. I mean, you don't have a social life. On the weekends, you're doing groceries, cleaning the house. These line dancing people on Saturdays, they're like, no, I got to go. My mom is 81 years old. She's part of the community. She gets dressed up and she parties more than I do. Okay. So I'm just trying to tell y'all, this is the way that if you need a social life, if you want to meet that significant other, go to the line dancing class. All right. Okay. So I just want to point out one other thing. How many of you guys are registered to vote? Can I see your hands? Very good. Miss Tracy, are you in the building? Okay. Back in our back table, we have a representative here today that if you're not registered to vote, or you need to get more information about how to become registered, I'm going to beg you to go meet with her before you leave today, okay? Are any questions regarding events? Any suggestions for events? Huh? Okay, thank you. Oh, this is me, okay. All right, so how many of you have seen the beautiful building called the New Granada Square Apartments, the one that has the Kente cloth? And have you noticed that underneath the apartments, there are 5 bays that say leasing? We're getting ready to bring in some brand new businesses into the community. And so we are in talks with several businesses right now that are interested in moving into those spots. But we do still have some opportunities that still are available if there is a business owner that's interested in moving there. So in addition to the apartments that are above the building, we do have retail space in that New Granada Square apartment. If you're interested, you can contact either myself or Jeb Berlin, who is our partner, our retail real estate partner. He is with CBRE, and we will get you started on becoming a journey person for that opportunity. Also, if you're looking for an apartment and you're an artist, there are some apartments available in that New Granada Square apartment. If you're interested, I would suggest you move quickly. Those apartments go extremely fast. So just a few 1 and 2 bedroom apartments available. And I would encourage you to come in, take a look, take a tour. The apartments include a unit kitchen with the refrigerator and the stove, washer and dryer is located in the unit. Thank you. Your utility gas is included, and there are some income limits available as well. So please take advantage of that. And again, don't delay on that because those apartments move fast. And I've had a chance to see them. They're beautiful because they're new. Everything is in there new, right? So you want to take advantage of that. When it comes, yes.
It is income based.
Yep.
So there are apartments at just about every income level at 80% of the area's median income and below. And so if there's a unit available, I'd say it's 60% area median income, then and that's the bracket you're in, you would qualify. If it's at 40% area median income and there's a unit at that level available, then someone could qualify.
Okay. Any other questions about the apartments or the retail spaces? Okay. So as a community, we want to make sure that everyone understands that we're in this together. It's not just Marimba trying to build the community or the Hill CDC building the community, it's everyone. And the only way we're going to successfully build this community and make it as beautiful as we all understand that it can be is jump in and help us. So as you know, I'm always looking for volunteers. If you are free during Food Bank Day, you don't even have to ask. Just come in, Diane, I'm here to volunteer, jump into the circle. We love that. If there's an event that we're doing and you know, hey, I'm going to go and volunteer, come in. You don't even have to ask. Just come on beside us because you're part of our family. Okay. In addition to that, it also takes funds to do what we're doing. Right now, we're in the middle of renovating that whole center, New Granada Square section. And so if you know it's on your heart to participate, I would encourage you to go to our GoFundMe page and actually put in a donation. And I'm going to sound like one of the politicians right now. $5 go a long way, guys. Okay? You don't even have to put in a whole lot. You could just put in just a little bit every month, and that adds up. That helps us move the dial. And we're not doing little projects. You know, we're not putting together, you know, little dog houses or, you know, pet. We're putting together theaters and apartment buildings and major community assets, and that takes a lot of money. So if it's on your heart, go ahead, put the $5 in, you know? Here, I'll even go one step further. If you are used to doing tithes and offerings, make us your offering. That's all I'm gonna say. Our next meeting is November the 21st. It's going to be 5:30. I promise you, I won't give you the same meal next time. Okay, I know I gave you that meal 3 times so far. I'm gonna change it up a little bit for you, but I encourage you to continue to come out. We need you. We can't do this work without you. Okay, I'm going to bounce it over to Dylan Brown. He's going to go over the development review panel, and tonight we're voting on 2 projects. 2 major projects. So he's going to give you all the details of that. And then the next thing you'll hear is from the developers.
Thank you, Diane. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dylan, and I am the Policy and Planning Associate at the Hill CDC. So part of my responsibility, as Diane mentioned, is to facilitate the development review panel process, and we use DRP for short. So if you see that, that's what that stands for. So the development review panel is the community's unified voice for development review. And as you can see, we have a lot of people out tonight, and we're really proud of the way that we engage with our residents to get their input into every single project that goes into our community. And it's made up of 7 organizations, all of them based in the Hill District. You can see their logos up here. We've just added the Center for Family Excellence over the summer, so we're really excited to see our membership grow. And each of these organizations appoint a resident of the Hill District. It's very important that we emphasize every decision that goes into what the Hill CDC endorses or does not endorse is based on residents' input. And so the development review panel is comprised of a panel of residents, and then we have our community meetings, which you're at today, and all of the residents in this room are able to vote on a project. And so over the last 10 years, we've reviewed over 60 projects, which is really exciting, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. So we're really encouraged that you all came out tonight to join us in this really noble process. And you can see here, the website for the DRP is hilldistrict.org/DRP. So how it works in a really simple way is, as I mentioned, we have that panel of residents that are appointed by the organizations. They're the first ones to review a project, and they look at it in terms of its alignment with the Greater Hill District Master Plan. And they score that project on a very detailed scorecard. And they determine if the project is ready to come to a room of residents like today. And so once they pass that first hurdle, the project will come to the residents, and the residents will vote on their opinion on the project. So that's the second step, what we're doing today. And if a cumulative score, which is the combined score, so the panel score and the residents score, that combined score, if it's over 80%, then the development project receives a letter of support, which is sent to the city, to the county, to any financing agencies. And so that letter of support is really critical to help these projects move forward, because it demonstrates that they've engaged with the community and they've listened to their concerns, and they're trying to come to a conclusion that everyone is a fan of. And so we set the bar really high for this, and we're honestly proud of that, because we don't think we should have half the room agree and half the room disagree. We want to see a vast majority of residents in this neighborhood endorse a project before it gets our letter of support. And so to say that the process ends if it doesn't get that 80% is not true. And we are very adamant that we're not a barrier to development. We're the bridge to community development. We always meet with developers if they don't pass to explain the scorecard, where they can improve, what needs to be maybe clarified, or what needs to change. And so those meetings happen over the course of, say, a month, and we never say the process ends. They're always welcome to come back when they're ready to give us an updated presentation. And so the only time the Hill CDC does not endorse a project is when the process is abandoned. And there's a couple metrics for that. If the developer does not meet with the DRP for over 2 years after they submit their project. That's one example. But if a developer just decides, you know what, hey, I don't need to do this, I'm going to go ahead on my own, then that's another example of when we're not going to endorse a project. And so I'm going to briefly go over the 2 projects that you're going to hear today. They're going to have 15 minutes of, uninterrupted time to give you their entire project. So please be respectful of that. And then you'll have 15 minutes as residents to ask questions of these developers. And the first development that you're going to see tonight is Rhythm Square. Rhythm Square Phase 1 was, they applied to the DRP in September of last year. And they presented to the DRP committee, which is the residents that are appointed, in November. And at that point, the DRP had an initial set of concerns that we addressed with the developers, and we have thus come past those. Sorry, I was twisting my words. So in January through March, we met with the team. We went over these different concerns that the DRP panel outlined, such as a transportation plan for the site, the layouts and the design of the residential units, the specific details of the artistic studio space that they'll go into today, and different potential tenants that they were considering for commercial spaces. And so after those meetings, the team came back to present in May, and they received an 85% score from the panel of residents, the DRP committee. And so that means we're ready to get here today before you all. And so the other project we're going to be hearing from is called Herron and Wylie. This project is located, guess, at the intersection of Herron and Wylie. And so Lakeisha Bird submitted this project in February, and the DRP reviewed the materials internally at our March meeting. And then in April, they scored the project and gave it an 86%. And so we're really encouraged and excited that these developers are choosing to develop in our neighborhood. And so we definitely hope you have questions for them. Without any interruption, I will pass things over to Studio Volcy, who will go off with their first presentation. Oh, was there a question? Sorry. Hi. Rhythm Square was an 85%, their final score from the panel. Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot to mention this, but oh yeah, sorry. So a resident asked what the score was for Rhythm Square, which I brought back up here on the slides. It was an 85%. So they initially did not reach the threshold, but now they're at the threshold based on revisions that they made. And so I'll pass things over to Studio Volcy, and please, yeah, give them your attention. All right. About, while questions are being asked, we are going to pass out scorecards. And the people that can score this project are Hill District residents. So Hill CDC staff will go around and make sure that you're a Hill District resident. They'll give you a scorecard. There's pens scattered about, so please share those with the fellow people at your table. And for those of you watching online, you can go to hilldistrict.org/score, and you can fill out an online form to give your feedback on this project. So now, apologies, we're ready for Studio Volcy.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I am Alicia Volcy. I'm sorry, I forgot there was a mic here. Take it out. I don't know if I need to do that. You want me to try? You try. No, because I don't want to keep passing it.
You want to keep it there?
Yeah, let's keep it there.
Okay.
We'll just
keep
it full. All right. So, can you all hear me? Hear me well? Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm Alicia Volcy. I'm originally from Florida. I've been in Pittsburgh now for about 14 years. Some of you may or may not have heard of the program that I went through to actually get to Pittsburgh, but the name of that program is U-Dream, which is at Carnegie Mellon, and that program is designed to increase the number of minority designers and architects that are in Pittsburgh. So I did that program and I was able to get a job and work. And ever since then, I've been here working in the city. And so one of the things that became really apparent to me while working on projects at majority white-led firms is that oftentimes by the time you get into the design phase of a project, a lot of the decision making, especially in terms of who that's going to impact, those decisions have already been made. And so in 2019, I set out to start my own organization where we put ownership at the forefront of our design process. And the reason why we do that is really because we want to be able to have more of a say in terms of how people are impacted and what type of buildings we're actually putting out into the communities. We believe that change happens at the intersection of beauty, culture, and economic empowerment. Okay, so we just want to talk a little bit about our impact in the city since our existence. Majority of the projects that we do are centered in Black communities, and majority of those projects either fall in the education realm or in terms of how people live and work. And I just wanted to highlight a few of those. One of them is the Best of the Batch Foundation, which is in Homestead. This is a safe place for kids. So in a lot of communities, what you might consider to be like a boys and girls club, but think about that with much more amenities. And so we were able to create a state-of-the-art facility that has a lot of STEM education here. We did an outdoor classroom in Homewood. This was a Bible Center project. So that is a project, again, in Homewood. And then we did the On Our Own, which is a business incubator for Black businesses that is in Homewood. And so we also did the design for that. All right. So just a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. We'll talk to you a little bit about the project team because it's a much bigger team than just us. We'll also talk about cultural legacy goals, housing development goals, economic empowerment and commercial development goals, and as well as being a well-designed community and what those goals look like. All right. So this is our design team. Again, I'm Alicia Volcy. I'm the owner and founder of Studio Volcy. And this is Robin Engel.
Nice to meet you.
And Robin is a project manager that has been working with us for a little bit over a year now. So in terms of our design team for Rhythm Square, we've tried to cultivate a team of very experienced professionals, and we wanted that team to also be diverse. So we're working with GBBN architects on this project. And the project the design of it is being led by a Black woman. And then we have Rollins Architecture and Adam Guy, who have served as consulting architects. We're also working with some engineers, one of them being a passive house expert. We'll talk a little bit about passive house coming up here in a few. And then we also have some engineering consultants as well. All right. So we wanted to touch a little bit on the project history. So the first time that, I'm not sure how many of you were here, but the first time that we gave a presentation on this project was back in 2019 when the Urban Redevelopment put out an RFQ for Center Avenue. So this is that presentation back in 2019. We did some additional presentations between then, and we just thought we wanted to just make a point of showing what that initial community score was. So during that meeting, we did get some feedback, and those are things that we've carried with us throughout the time that we've been working in the background. So in terms of the site and the context, so this project is the old Center Supply and Lumber Warehouse, which is located between Soho and Kirkpatrick. So if you're familiar with where Open Gallery is, it's right there, and our project is right here. All right, so a little bit of an overview in terms of now that we've gotten to this place, what the project is going to include. So we have 5 affordable apartments, so we'll go into the details of that. A retail space, a shared gallery space, and some creative studios. We're also bringing sustainability to the project. And sustainability is one of those buzzwords that I know sometimes you hear a lot. But one of the big things when it comes to sustainability is really about revitalization. How can we take what we already have and improve that instead of just knocking things down and starting over from scratch? And so this is a building that has really solid bones. And so we wanted to really take that and see how we can not only revitalize it, but also add to it. So we're taking the upper floor as well. And then lastly, in terms of the affordability, we have 3 apartments that will be offered at 50% of area median income, 2 apartments between 60 and 80. We also want to provide studio rent subsidies for the creative spaces, as well as those artist studios. And this is a rendering just to show you what we envision it looking like.
All right. And this is the same building as you can see at night. And just to look at that a little bit, and we'll dive in a little bit closer into each of those 3 levels and what we're looking at the inside. Right here. So on the first floor, that is right on Center Avenue, some prime frontage there, very highly visible, with a couple different commercial spaces. And we've got this divided up into a section that looks a little closer at the commercial options as well as the residential. So we're going to work through this step by step. Level 2 is also commercial space. That's where we're envisioning those artist studios, those artist incubator studios. And the 3rd floor is the 5 residential units, which again, we'll go into a little bit further detail. Cultural legacy was very important for us and for Alicia from the beginning of this project. Thinking about the history of arts in the Hill District has been central to the vision for this project from the get-go. As Alicia mentioned, a key tenet of the program here is artist studio space with subsidized rent. So what this was envisioned is not just the space to create an artist, have a creative space for artists, but to really for those artists to thrive. And prioritization for those spaces would be given to Hill District-based artists and arts organizations, as well as Black artists and creatives. And what we're thinking there is that not just, again, that space for making, but really to grow those businesses and have that economic development tie into different networking opportunities, whether it's with the Oakland Business Improvement District, Origins, Monmade, and other local organizations to really help artists thrive. So that was a little bit looking at the interior program of the building. Looking at the outside, there are also opportunities to have that visual connection to the historic legacy of arts in the Hill District. Looking at rhythm walls, we have several different opportunities for public murals, and we would go through a public call for Black artists to contribute to the outward facade of the building.
Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about, just in terms of the program of the building, is Rhythm by Design, which is a Black architect's residency. Rhythm by Design, which is a Black architect's residency. And so a lot of people may not know this, because I think one of the things that is really great about the Hill is that there have been some Black architects that have been doing some work in the Hill. Mr. Milton is one of them. And so I know many of you know Mr. Milton, but in a lot of our communities, that's not something that you see all the time. Only 1.9% of architects in the United States are African-American, and just to kind of give you an idea of how many people I'm talking about, I mean like less than 2,000 people, right? And if we start to look at how many of them are Black women, those numbers get much lower at less than 0.5%. And so that's around 623 women. And we're talking about nationally. So I don't just mean like in the city or in the state, right? And so with the rich history that is here in the Hill, we thought that it would be a really good idea to actually establish a residency here that would allow some of the same people that might be coming from these programs that are created to bring more minorities to Pittsburgh to actually have a program based here, so that this could also be a place where Black architecture is being invested in. Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about housing. And so one thing that we do want to note, and many of you have probably seen this building, and so you know that it is a commercial building, but we do just want to point out that that we're talking about housing without displacement. And so there currently is no housing on the site. And so our goal is to add to the stock of affordable housing here in the community. And so this is just showing the third floor plan. And so again, right now the existing building is only 2 floors. So we are taking it up a third level so that we can actually get the additional 5 units of housing. Because that was one of the things in the master plan, is the importance of being able to have commercial at the street level and residences on top. It's a very expensive endeavor, but we are doing it to make sure that we actually get that affordability that is so much needed here. And another thing that we're going to be providing is empowerment services. And so we just have a list of them here. And those would include case management, financial literacy and credit counseling, life skills classes for residents, access to after-school programs for youth, and as well as housing placement. So these are all things that would be provided to residents that would live here, and we would be providing these things through partners in the community. So these aren't things that we would be implementing. We would be working with community organizations in order to implement that. All right. So now we'll move into economic empowerment and commercial development. So on our project right now, this is what our MBE participation looks like. I believe the goals for the Hill are 30% and 15% for MBE and WBE. We're far exceeding that, but it is one of those things where on the design side, we made it a point to be diligent about exceeding those goals. When it comes to some of the other things like construction and job placement and those kinds of things, these are the areas where we would definitely need the community to also be a part of that. We do have organizations that we are working with to make sure that that continues, but we want to continue to far exceed the goals. We don't want to just meet them. Okay. And this is going back to the point that I was just saying about some of the partners. These are some of the organizations that we are working with on this. And so one of our goals is 50 temporary construction jobs, 5 to 6 permanent new jobs, 4 jobs retained, and 1 in 3 hires from the Hill District. And so we just kind of look forward to working with you all and trying to, continue to make sure that we meet those goals. Right. So mission aligned tenant opportunities. So as I mentioned, we have 2 levels of commercial space. So we have gallery, retail, and creative studio space. So I started this by kind of saying how important it was to me for to be a part of the decision making before the design actually happens. And here's where I really think that comes in, and what really matters is, who's going in this space, who wants to actually be a part of this project. And so we're trying to create this hub for Black creatives, but in order to do so, it does require some collaboration. And so at this time, none of these spaces have been rented out. And these are things that we're looking for partners on. So if you are a part of an organization that you believe can help serve one of these programming needs, we would love to hear from you and to understand what your interest is so that we can see if there's an opportunity there. So when I say Creative Hub, what we're looking to do is provide programming for people that want to have either creative jobs. They could be just an artist that is working part-time. It could be someone that has more of a technical creative business, but ultimately things around arts incubation, retail incubation, again, small creative business incubation, things like that. So creative businesses primarily. You take this one. Okay. And so this creative workforce development program kind of stems out of the Rhythm by Design component that I talked about. So I know that job creation is a thing that is very much needed. And so we're kind of exploring this idea around workforce development with adult drafting education. It is not something that has been finalized, but it's an idea and something that we're thinking about. So we wanted to put it here and potentially get some feedback to see what you all think about it.
All right. Okay, great. So just diving a little bit closer in so you can get a little bit of a closer look at the different spaces throughout the building. This is the first floor commercial space, which is divided up into 2 large spaces, which if you peek in the doors of Center Lumber Supply, this is kind of what you'll see. We're planning to, obviously fully renovate the space, but this is the existing walls where they are and looking at those different spaces that were there originally. The stair tower is new, which also adds a component of circulation. So you can bring that stair to the outside of the building more easily, get up and down, as well as an elevator, because the whole building is completely accessible. All right. And a key tenet of this design as well is to really make it good for the community and really hit all those marks for sustainability and on the Greater Hill District Master Plan. In terms of the sustainability goals for this project, we really have worked with the architects and designers to make it a very high performing building. So that's a lot of insulation in the walls, that's really insulated windows and doors, so that we're really bringing that energy use way down, which means lower energy bills, less reliance on the energy grid. With the high fluctuation of temperatures, as we've all experienced this summer, less likelihood of losing that indoor comfort. That's also super highly filtered air. So just the air quality is much better inside, and it makes it just a more comfortable environment for tenants and residents. Flipping to the outside as well, we don't want to just, enrich that indoor experience, but the outdoor experience too. So we're planning an outdoor patio space. They can host various seasonal events for Hill District residents as well as tenants. So outdoor vending, seasonal farmers markets, seasonal artist markets as well, and live entertainment. Throughout the development, we're very much committed to regular updates through development website, Instagram updates, social media of choice, as well as periodic updates that we can relay to the CDC for circulation within the community.
All right. And then just to give a quick recap, some of the benefits that we think our project does bring to the community is space that is specifically in support for Black artists and Hill District residents, as well as subsidized studio space. We didn't talk very much about this, but when it comes to creative space, affordability is often an issue. And so we want to be able to provide some of them at a subsidized cost. So if there are artists that need workspace at a lower cost, we want to be able to provide that. We have the 5 units of high quality affordable housing. We've taken a lot of care in trying to make sure that when we're looking at sustainability and the quality, that's at the forefront of what we're putting out. And in terms of economic development, we have 3 spaces that are aligned for, that we have set aside for mission aligned commercial use. So we're not just looking for any tenant. We want to make sure that the tenants will meet the mission of the project. The affordability goals, again, at a minimum of 15% and 30%. The exploration of the workforce development plan. And then last but not least, again, that energy efficient building that we're trying to bring. So that's it.
Thank you.
So if you have any questions, we're getting ready to do a vote. So now we will take questions before we do the vote. And then we will come around and collect your scorecards.
If you're a resident, you don't have a ballot, please.
If you're a resident and you haven't received your ballot yet, please put your hands up real quick. We'll make sure we get to your table right here. And in that back row. Okay, so questions, now raise your hand. All right.
So I start with the So the lady in the red had her hand up first. Or you trying to get a ballot or you had a question?
I have a question.
Okay, yeah, she had her hand up first,
Yeah. What's
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So just ask if you repeat the question.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, Miss.
Here, seen all of these plans.
Mhm.
Do you have any idea when is this gonna start? Where's the money coming from?
Mhm.
You want people to, if they have an interest in one of those particular things, to let you all know.
Mhm.
But does that mean that that person has to come up with some money at the same time they're saying, well, I want a unit?
Okay.
Just to repeat the question, that was, thank you. Can you hear me now? Is it not on? Okay. I don't know.
Is
Happen.
Repeating the question is for the live stream.
All right, to repeat it for the people online, the question was, is there a projected timeline and projected funding sources for the project? Okay,
Just repeating your question for the live stream.
can I, does it work now?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Here you go.
All right, so in terms of funding, so at this point, we have about 90% of our funding in place for this project. There's a little bit of funding that we're still trying to come up with, but to be honest, a lot of that is really tied to the sustainability component. Really that probably I just won't let go. So if we were to maybe take that down a notch, we could probably start next month. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, in a couple months, because it does, kind of take time to really get things. We've already put the project out to bid, so we've, gotten pricing from contractors to see what, how this fares with what our budget is. We're a little bit over budget, and we're really trying to see what we can do to make it work. We were trying to reach Passive House in terms of the sustainability. And what that means is, some of you may have heard of LEED certification. So Passive House is really taking that up a notch, and really creating a building that like lives and breathes kind of on its own. And so that would therefore make the project even more affordable, because we're not wasting as much money on heating and cooling and things like that. Now, the building would still be comfortable,
Absolutely.
but you're not spending as much money as you typically would on utilities. So that's really where the majority of our funding gap is coming from. So in terms of when it will start, we hope to break ground by the end of the year. That's the goal. We have a great deal of funding sources, and with that being said, a lot of them have timelines. So as early as this year, in terms of breaking ground. I think you had a second question, which was, do we have the money, and then the timeline?
And if tenants are interested.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Youth benefit from this program, the youth in this community.
Okay, so the question was, how can the youth in the community benefit from the project? So I think there are a number of different ways, and some of that just really has to do with the fact that we're the ones doing the project. I know that there's a school right across the street, and it's my understanding there was some meetings going on about what may be the potential of that. But we actually see that as an asset, right? And to my earlier point about the fact that there aren't a lot of architects that look like us, I think it would be a really big deal for them to be able to see this happen right in front of the school. And so I also am a member and past president of NOMA, which is the National Organization of Minority Architects, the Pittsburgh chapter. We do a camp every year where we introduce students to architecture. And so what I would like to see happen when the project gets going is for there to be opportunities for them to actually get some exposure to what this building process looks like. That's one way that I think that youth can benefit. But also with a lot of the programming that we're talking about putting in the space, I don't think that it has to be specific to adults. But again, like design is my, like that's kind of like my expertise. And so like being able to work with the community and organizations that have specific interests in things like serving you is like, that's something that we're definitely open to.
One thing we've talked about too, or even certain portions of the spaces being able to be rented out or used by the community. So there are opportunities, especially with the artist-centered mission, being able to, you know, help kids explore that at a younger age and being able to even connect them with, you know, certain artists to say, look, this could be you too.
My question was similar to his, like working with the schools in the area and maybe introducing architecture to, you know, the schools, especially with the school right across the street, and having them see you as well as this, that is as the project is. So.
Yeah, I mean, we try to do a lot of that through NOMA. And we would like to do more of it. But a lot of times that outreach is the difficult part, is to actually make sure that the parents have the information. And one thing that I think we do really well is making sure that it is priced at a point that it is definitely accessible. So if there are, like, if you are a part of an organization or a church or anything where you would like us to, you know, have a way to connect you and provide more involvement, we're happy to do that. Okay. There was a question over here, yes.
It is, after 20, 30 years, what happens to subsidies? Because one of the concerns that I have is that some people who live there may be displaced later on down the road. So is there any pushing for that or advice about that?
Okay, so the question was, what will happen to subsidies 20 to 30 years from now? Is there anything put in place for that? So in terms of the funding that we have available to be able to create these subsidies, because I'm, you know, and I like to be very honest when it comes to these things, because I think it's important for the community to know. Construction is not affordable. It just is not. Okay. And so when it comes to what has to be put in place in order to create these subsidies, it's really hard to do. And so in terms of the funding that we currently have in place, I believe the commitment is 15 years or something like that in order for us to maintain this particular timeline. So what I can tell you in full transparency, we have it figured out for 15 years. How we continue to make sure that we're able to sustain beyond that is kind of going to be one of those things that is a work in progress. I don't think it's something that we can stop doing. I think funding for projects that are intended to be affordable, it has to be continuous. And that's something that we are committed to doing. But I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Congratulations for getting this far.
Thank you.
It wasn't clear if the two vacant lots, the vacant lots on either side are part of the project or not. I saw some renderings of an outdoor patio or something.
Okay.
Could you just elaborate on that?
So the lot next door, if you are on Center Avenue and you are looking at the building, the lot to the right is a part of this project because we pulled the existing building has a stair inside and it's right in the middle of the building. It's not in great condition. And so to make sure that we can provide a safe stair and also take back some of that space on the interior, we've pulled the stair to the outside, and also we're adding an elevator so that it can be completely accessible. As you may know, that site is on a slope, and because of that, there would not be a way for someone in a wheelchair or someone with an ailment to be able to access the entire building. And so we put it on the outside to be able to do that. And so those are the only lots that are included in phase one.
I think Ms. Roxanne had a question,
Hi.
and then Mr. Housing, then we're gonna wrap up.
Okay. Good evening. Although I'm not from the U, your community affects my community. And I feel in terms of the youth you're speaking about, we have to really do a wraparound approach in terms of getting a database of our youth and really doing some kind of case management in terms of employment, training, whatever we can do as far as placement. I've been doing it for 34 years. I love everybody. I've been going to work on the workforce development part as a mentor, because I've been around enough, and we'll go from there. And I'll give you my business card.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Have you considered, solar panels on top?
Yeah, so
Sustainability.
sorry, the question was, have we considered solar panels, as far as sustainability is concerned? We did consider solar panels, but in terms of the cost of that, in relation to how that would benefit the project from a cost standpoint, we just couldn't really make that work. It's not something that's completely out of the realm of possibility, but as of right now, we don't have solar panels on the building.
And have you, coupled with, Ubuntu, and you have some, associate relationship with Ubuntu, because it sounds as though some of what he's doing is some of what you're doing as well.
So we've had some conversations, not many, but he came up to me a few years ago and made it a point to let me know that accessibility was going to be important. So we have an elevator. That was one of the things that he told us very early on. But we haven't really talked very much about the programming aspect of that, but I think that it's important to do so, right? And not just for the project that they have going on, but all of the Center Avenue developments. In my opinion, I feel like it only makes sense for us to talk and understand what everyone is trying to bring to the community, what we want to see, so that we're not duplicating efforts where we shouldn't. And collaboration is kind of key. So
I think it'd be a good idea to partner with people in those areas that you can to, do a collaboration instead of, duplicating.
Marimba, I just wanted to tell, you that maybe to add to your, empowerment services for residents, especially you, the CEC has seen Saturday programs. So that will be an opportunity for you to introduce, to the A, architecture and NOMA awareness. I'll take your card and give it to my director, because that's starting, we also have our camp with youth from 3 to 8 that partners with schools. That'll be a good segue into introducing the kids at a young age versus architect.
Yep, absolutely. We love that.
All right. So, in the interest of time, we are going to move on to our next presentation, but please,
Thank you.
do stick around. If you do have additional questions you'd like to ask the representatives of Studio Volcy, please stick around and do so. For those of you watching online, you are welcome to score this project at hilldistrict.org/score. And so, like I said, you don't have to submit your ballot right now. If you have another question you want to ask, we'll be standing at the exit at the end of the meeting too. But please do pass your ballot to Shelly. She's walking around with our ballot box. And I'm going to welcome up Lakeisha Bird from Communion LLC for her project, Herron and Wylie. Thank you.
Sorry, okay. All right, but thank you. Okay. Yes, thank you everyone for having me here. Okay. Good evening. Thank you everyone for having me here. I'm gonna try to navigate between you all in the audience here, and then also just being mindful that it's being live streamed. Again, just thank you for having me. I'll start by introducing myself. I have met many of you all, but my name is Lakeisha Bird. Similar to Alicia in the previous presentation, I came to Pittsburgh by way of the U-Dream program through Carnegie Mellon back in 2011 as well. And more specifically, in 2014, I came to the Hill District, and I spent that first year actually at the Hill CDC, which was a great opportunity. Helped lay a foundation. That was during the time when I believe the CDC was working on the Center Avenue redevelopment and design plan. So I got to come in on the ground level and kind of see the work that was being done in the community.
And I've really just spent that year listening and learning. And it really has laid a foundation. And then in 2015, I think, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, everybody.
Should I just continue?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I know, okay.
If it goes,
Yeah.
I'll just turn it back.
Gotcha. I try to make it brief because I know time is of the essence. But in 2015, I started working independently. I worked on a number of different projects. I worked on a number of different projects. I don't want to be distracted, so I'll just try to speak as loud as possible. Right here. Okay. Yep. I've been working on a number of projects across the city, with majority of my work being located in the Hill district. And most recently, over the last several years, I've been working on the Herron and Wylie project. And I'll go more in depth about that process as we get into the project. I wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about all of the different components that have shaped the project. I'm sure we'll have time to circle back to any items, and then obviously during the Q&A, we can go in detail about anything, but I just want to make sure I use the time to touch on all of the key elements of the project. Okay. I always like to start my presentation off with this quote from Elizabeth Catlett, who I keep leaning into it as if the mic is here. So I always like to start my presentation off with this quote from Elizabeth Catlett. She was an Afro-Latina artist who spent some time in Pittsburgh, and then she settled in Mexico during her latter years. But this quote really resonated with me, and it really kind of defines what inspires the work that I do. And it's more so internal for me, but I wanted to share that with you all. And it basically says that art or architecture must develop from a necessity within my people. It must answer a question or wake us up or push us in the right direction. And that really resonates with me. So. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. Hopefully this is a little bit better. But again, just sharing this quote with you, I'm just trying to provide some context of what kind of motivates me and the work that I do. And again, I'm always looking to think about what's going to move us in the right direction. How does the work that we do impact us at every level within our community? Before we get into any the specifics of the project, yeah, I'm just going to let it go. Before we get into the specifics of the project, I just want to provide a brief overview. And again, I will be going into detail about some of these components. But the project is Herron and Wylie, and as the name suggests, it's located at the corner of Herron Avenue and Wylie Avenue. You can see from the images at the base of the screen, that's actually the existing conditions. It's where that triangular building sits at that corner, and the lots directly behind it. The images at the top are kind of what we're proposing, and I'll definitely go into a little bit more detail about that momentarily. I just really wanted to use this as an opportunity to highlight that there are two components to the project. It is a mixed-use project. It consists of both commercial and residential. With the commercial, we're anticipating a little over 2,200 square feet of retail space fronting Herron Avenue. With the and then the residential component, we're proposing a total of 8 apartment units, with majority of them being priced for affordability at or below 80% AMI and as low as 30% AMI. And I'll actually provide a little bit more detail about that as we progress through the presentation. As mentioned, the site is located at the corner of Herron and Wylie. And then just providing a little bit of context, I'm sure some of us might be already well familiar with the site, but again, it's where that triangular building is at that corner. If you're already familiar, you know that just a short walking distance to both the 82 bus line as well as the 83 bus line, and then also just highlighting some of the other developments that have taken place in the community and just trying to highlight our proximity to all of the work that's being done in the community, and then some of the other areas within the city in relationship to this site. With that being said, this is again zooming into the actual site a little bit, and some of the existing conditions. As you can see from this illustration on the screen, there's that triangular building. It's in need of a lot of repair. The sidewalks and stairs have deteriorated at that site. The
I don't have the cursor, but the vacant lot directly behind the triangular building is also a part of the development as well. And as you can see from the slide, what we're proposing is to make improvements not only to the sidewalk, add some planting along both Herron and Herron Avenue as well as Wylie Avenue. Also infill that vacant lot. Just infill that vacant lot as well, and then also renovations to make renovations to the existing structure. Okay. Hello. Okay. You mind if I hold it? Sure. Okay. I can't get it. Okay, there we go. Okay, just to make sure I'm projecting. I tried to talk as loud as I could. But so these are some of the proposed conditions. And as we continue to progress through the slides, I'll go a little bit more in detail about all of it. Again, zooming into the site even more. Again, that's the triangular building at the base with the vacant lot. We're proposing to phase the project. The first phase will focus on the infill development, which will be the new construction of a 4-story building adjacent to the existing structure. And we will renovate the existing 3-story building in phase 2. To provide a little bit more context and just for visibility, again, you can see the phase 1 is being highlighted. Okay, it looks a little different from the screen, but phase 1 is being highlighted. And again, it is the new construction of this 4-story building where we are proposing a little over, that actually should say 1,100 square feet of retail space fronting Herron Avenue, with phase 2 focusing on the renovation of the 3-story existing building and an additional 1,000 square feet of retail space, again, fronting Herron Avenue. The unique thing about this site, and if any of you all are familiar, and how it's a little hilly at that corner, that actually presents an opportunity for us to have street level retail fronting Herron Avenue. But on the adjacent side on Wylie Avenue, we also have a ground level where you'll enter the residences as well. So in the first phase of that new construction building, those upper levels will be accessible from Wylie Avenue, and it will include 6 total apartments, 1 and 2 bedroom units. And in the when we renovate the existing structure, there will be some additional apartment units as well. To speak more about some of those uses that I was just referencing, on Herron Avenue, we're anticipating, as I mentioned, a little over 1,100 square feet of retail space with storefronts and a commercial kitchen for lease. And then with phase 2, the opportunity to expand that retail space an additional 1,000 square feet. The unique opportunity there is the tenant that we haven't identified a tenant yet. That was intentional. The goal would be to actually partner and work with our community to identify a tenant. We haven't progressed to that point yet. We'll do that once we get a little bit deeper into the construction process. But we want to make sure that whatever tenant occupies the space is in alignment with, the community's goals and needs. So we will want to partner with our community groups to make sure that that process is facilitated publicly. But again, I want to just acknowledge that with the phase 2, we can expand that retail space an additional 1,000 square feet, which will give that commercial tenant an opportunity to expand, or we can engage a secondary tenant. So we have that option, and I like, and that's a unique part of the project as well. And as I mentioned earlier, from Wylie Avenue, you will have access to the apartments. And in the new construction, we're proposing 6 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, as mentioned earlier, at or below 80% AMI and as low as 30% AMI, with rent starting as low as $577 for 1 bedroom. And again, in the second phase, some additional units will be available as well once we renovate the existing structure. With that being said, I just wanted to provide a little bit more background information and also some of the logistics that has helped shape the project and our team, including myself. As I mentioned earlier, I started, and I don't know actually if I had mentioned it, but I started Communion about 9 years ago here in the Hill District. And again, working on projects all across the city, but majority of that work has been done in the Hill District. We're joined by GBB and Architects, being led by a Black female architect and interior architect as well. We have engineering support by Cosmos Technologies, who has done a considerable amount of work throughout the Hill District as well. WBCMC and Allen and Sharif also providing engineering support. Also, I just wanted to acknowledge that earlier this year, we released a public RFQ to identify a construction partner. We went through a very rigorous process and we were able to identify and select Mystic Construction as our construction partner. Thank you. And Mystic Construction has done a considerable amount of work all across Pittsburgh and in other areas outside of Pittsburgh, but they've also done a considerable amount of work inside the Hill District as well. And they, and like I mentioned, we did a public RFQ to vet and identify the right partner for this project with their expertise and experience working in the Hill District, their experience working with public and private funded projects, their experience with MWBE utilization. They were selected as the right partner for this project.
Getting told by the marimba that he's gonna get that work done. I'm Roxanne from this, so.
Oh, okay.
I'm about to.
No shout
out, no shout out.
I also just wanted to use this opportunity to acknowledge some of our financial partners who have been involved and invested in this process as well. The total cost of the project is about $4.5 million, and we've been able to raise about $4 million for the project. And I just wanted to acknowledge and recognize some of the financial partners. Through their investment and involvement in the project, we've been able to ensure deeper levels of affordability. We've been able to provide a mixed-use opportunity, not just housing, but also economic opportunity through the retail space through these financial partnerships. So I just wanted to take some time to acknowledge that as well. With all of that being said, we've made considerable progress for this project, and we're currently working on our final municipal and regulatory approvals, which we anticipate your zoning and building permit within the next 60 days. And with construction to start later this year as well. We're anticipating a 12-month construction period. I didn't list it here, but the lease up period will happen once we get into construction. So it will probably be most likely next spring 2025. We'll have more information around the commercial spaces, more information around the leasing of the apartments as well. And with that being said, I also just wanted to highlight some of the goals that have helped define the project as well. Again, very appreciative to be here and be able to talk to you all about this project, provide the updates, share with you all the progress we made, but I also just wanted to acknowledge some of the work that had been done before and some of the meetings that we participated in to just share more about this project, because we've been working on this project for a considerable amount of time. Anyone who's involved in development knows it takes years to get to construction. So with that being said, we met with Shenley Heights. We met with the Shenley Heights community back in December of 2019, which we shared about the Herron and Wylie project. The URA, I believe, was hosting quarterly meetings and providing updates on their involvement in Hill District development. We met with the community at that time to discuss the project. Councilman Avell's office hosted a District 6 mixer and community meeting in June of 2022. Again, another opportunity for us to engage with the community. At each of these opportunities, there was always an opportunity to provide updates and, answer questions and just really take in feedback, and that has helped shape the project. And then to date, as already mentioned, we submitted to the DRP earlier this year and met with the internal panel back in April, followed by the city's development activities meeting in May. And most recently, we met with the Macedonia Senior Center this past July and had an opportunity to present to their community as well, their community of seniors as well. I'll run through some of these. I just wanted to highlight how the project aligns and adheres to the Greater Hill District Master Plan, but also not just how it aligns with the master plan, but the master plan kind of really provided a foundation for how we shape the project. So I'll just kind of highlight some of those development goals and non-displacement strategies that has helped shape this project. The master plan goes into greater detail, but I'm just calling out a few things that we tried to weave into this project to make this project stronger, if you will. The master plan calls for neighborhood-driven civic design, which we tried to capture through recommendations outlined in the master plan, providing views of the corridor, providing ground level retail, which will help anchor mixed use spaces, providing planting and trees and landscaping opportunities, which we're doing on both Herron Avenue and Wylie Avenue. We look to utilize neighborhood strengths and assets. As I mentioned, this is the existing structure that's right there at that corner. We're looking not only to do the infill, but we're also looking to renovate this existing structure with this development. The master plan calls to promote a green and healthy environment. One of the ways that we do that is by being intentional about creating open spaces and greater opportunities for visibility. So incorporating balconies into the design, incorporating like at the retail space, this open space, this veranda, you can kind of see it at the base of the screen. I didn't highlight it, but that's a significant corner. Everyone who I've ever talked to about this triangle building, they always see it if they're coming up and down Herron Avenue. And even though it's a smaller space than most, there's still an opportunity to highlight that and, you know, make it more of a civic corner, make it a marker within the community. Also, there's opportunities for workforce and MWBE at every level of engagement at this project, including professional services. There's going to be opportunities during construction. And I also just wanted to highlight there will be opportunities post-construction with the lease up of the retail space and just the operations of the full building. So there will be workforce and MWB opportunities, again, pre-construction, during construction, and post-construction. There'll also be opportunities for first source hiring. It's important for us to increase Hill District participation with subcontractors, suppliers, and workers. We anticipate opportunities for job creation, and through our partnership with Mystic, we definitely will try to achieve these goals as well. As well as working with existing resources that are already available within the community and partnering to see how can we increase participation on this project. We want to enhance MWBE commitments. Again, these are all things that have been called out in the master plan, and we just want to highlight where we're how we're kind of aligning with the master plan and using it as our foundation to shape this project. Again, and this is just at the pre-construction level. There's also an opportunity at the construction level, as I mentioned, to achieve minority participation as well as women-owned participation. And again, partnering with Mystic, one of the things that when we were vetting the different contractors, we looked at their participation on other projects when it came to MWBE support. What were they doing on other projects? And last but not least, the master plan speaks about non-displacement strategies. And we just wanted to, I just wanted to acknowledge that this project, both the new construction and the renovation of the existing building, there are no occupied properties, there are no existing residents currently with this project. So there's no risk of displacement. I just wanted to highlight that because I know that that is always a concern. We're going to be building from the ground up, and we're renovating a vacant property that is currently not occupied, and there are no existing residents. I mentioned this earlier, the master plan calls for preserving affordability because this is a vacant space and new construction. There's no existing housing there currently, but we still see it as an opportunity to promote affordability. And with this, of the 8 total units, 6 of them are priced for affordability at or below 80% AMI, and again, as low as 30% AMI. And I provided the breakdown on the left specifically. So 2 units will be at 30%, 2 at 50, and then 2 at 80. Also looking for opportunities to create equity. As I mentioned earlier, one of the ways we create equity is by creating opportunities to do projects like this. And I mentioned I started working on communion right here in the Hill District, and to be able to even present this project to you all is an opportunity. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. Last but not least, economic empowerment also helps with non-displacement because we're not just thinking about housing stability, but also economic stability. And through our partnership with WAVE, who is a PHFA and HUD housing counseling agency that works with low to moderate income families, they will provide housing related support services. And last but not least, I just wanted to recap or provide a snapshot of specifically the first phase, since we're intending to start construction later this year. Again, that first phase, which will be the new construction of the 4-story building, it'll entail 6 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, roughly about a little over 1,100 square feet of leasable retail space. All of those units will be priced at or below 80% AMI. 50% AMI, and then also 30% AMI. Based on our partnership with Mystic and some of the scoping that we've already started to do, we believe that we can achieve the MWBE participation goals that have been outlined by the master plan, which is actually above the city. So we believe we can reach those. And that doesn't even include what we're anticipating already with the work we're doing pre-construction. With that being said, I just want to thank you for your time, and I believe we can do questions. Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah.
You're not planning around there for parking for your tenants?
Yeah, so currently I'm sorry, yes. The question was regarding parking, and is there a sufficient amount of parking for the tenants? Yes, so currently as I mentioned, the commercial space fronts Herron Avenue and the residential fronts Wylie. And looking at the existing site, there won't be any on-site parking. It will be technically infeasible because of the grade change between going from Herron to Wylie. But there's ample amount of street parking both along Herron and Wylie right in front of the building.
Not when school is in, because there's parking all the way on Herron Avenue, all the way back to Wylie.
Mm-hmm.
Pitt took over the parking.
Yeah.
Pitt took over parking on, there's no parking space.
Yeah, there's no parking there.
Right. We'll definitely have to look at the parking available on Wylie, because the goal would be to make sure there's sufficient parking for the residents, and their entry, the apartment entry is on Wylie Avenue. There's, are there any other questions? Yes.
Not a question, but again, congratulations.
I appreciate it.
You've worked hard, long and hard to get this project to this point.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Mhm. Yeah.
I'm looking at all this stuff up here, but in each presentation, I'm seeing that for years, the housing parts are really geared to 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. I haven't seen it go any further than that. So is it just 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom? Is that the option for?
Yeah, the question was about the unit mix. Is it 1 and 2 bedroom? Are there any other opportunities? I'm hoping that was the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they going further than 2 bedroom?
Are they going further than 2 bedroom? In this particular project, it's just 1 and 2 bedroom units. There in that first phase, it'll be 4 1-bedrooms and 2 2-bedroom units. I do want to just expound and say we did look at going above that. We ran all the different design scenarios for 3-bedroom units and things like that. But because of the narrowness of the site, it limited the amount of opportunity. So we also had to look at how much opportunity we could provide. And there's also other design related things as it relates to egress and just making sure safety and stuff like that. Yes.
That was part of my question as well, as far as housing. The way I'm looking at it, it looks like a great project, and it is very well designed. But my thing is, Herron Avenue is a long street.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as housing, will there be coming in the next phase, like 3 and 4 bedroom units? Things what, I'm sorry, wait, excuse me. Housing for families, basically, is what I'm asking.
Right.
And I know a few years back, we signed a petition to keep out affordable housing on Herron Avenue. A lot of us up there had signed to keep it out as far as affordable housing down there, like project housing or whatnot.
Right, right.
So my question is basically, is that where we're headed?
Right. And I just want to recap the question to make sure, I believe your question was around the housing component. You wanted to understand about not just the unit mix, but also in additional phases, is there an opportunity for housing for families, et cetera? Did I leave anything out?
Basically, that's it.
Okay.
It's the guaranteed affordable housing. That's basically it. Is that land gearing towards affordable housing?
So there are 8 total units being proposed. There are 2 that will be market rate. There are 2 at 80%, 2 at 50%, and then 2 at 30%. We want to provide a mixed income opportunity just to be mindful of the different income levels throughout the entire community. So that's in this current development. As I mentioned in the previous question, we had looked at what would it look like to offer 3-bedroom units, but given the site conditions, it just would have been not as design responsible to try to compact it for just the 3-bedroom units because it will require much more space. And then once you start increasing your occupancy as well, you got to deal with things like egress. So we were able to create this level of affordability through 1s and 2s. But I'll say this it kind of goes outside of this project, but
that's what I was saying. My question does go outside the project.
Okay.
We have a spot on that.
Okay.
For after they present.
Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. But it is something I have thought about. And I also take into consideration that there are other things happening all throughout the community. So I look at this project as a part of a larger story. And that's why on one of the early slides, I was trying to illustrate all the work that's being done. I don't look at this project as in competition, but we're adding to the growth within the Hill District and acknowledging all the work that's being done, not just the housing components, but there were some other like retail and commercial things happening on Center and in all throughout the community. Yes.
Okay, now, Keisha, first of all, I applaud you too, and the other young lady, and I do no stone unturned. When we come to working with people in the workforce, you have to be compassionate. You know, people don't pass the drugs, they don't have a background, you still have to put them to work. This is all about enhancing people's life. They could be streamlined around the whole Hill District corridor in terms of employment. There's a lot going on, right, remember? So we're gonna try to make sure it happens, and I'm there with you.
Thank you. Thank you. You want me to repeat that? No. Okay, just making sure. Okay. Were there any other questions? There's one in the back. Yes. I'm doing well. So, thank you.
My question is, I wanted to go back to the timeline that mentioned that your approvals, I'm not sure if they were from the zoning hearings or the city itself. I would imagine that at this advanced stage, that the plans themselves have been scrutinized by the zoning hearing board. At this point, you're probably going for a final vote, which is why you're stating the timeline is probably next month. Is that correct?
Yes. So, yes. So we actually already went before the zoning board back in July, and we received a decision last month, and we were approved for the variances. That's why I mentioned we did look at parking on site, and it was technically infeasible with this with the way the site is built. Parking isn't required for the retail, but it is required for the housing. And we were trying to look at all the different ways we can provide on-site parking for the residents. So we did do that. But once you complete that part of the process, the next step is the design review. So we're going through those final stages with the city. And that's why we're saying we anticipate having that completed within the next 60 days. I forgot to repeat the question, but just for clarification, the question was about the timeline related to regulatory and municipal approvals. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you, Lakeisha. So to our residents watching online, this is just another reminder. You can vote on this project as well. That is at hilldistrict.org/score. The virtual scorecard will be open until 12 p.m. next week. So if you have family members or neighbors who weren't able to make it out tonight, we're going to post this meeting to our YouTube channel so you can watch the meeting, get all of your information, and vote on the project as well. I'm going to pass things over to Marimba Lyons to give you some more CDC updates.
All right, everybody. Thank you for your patience and thank you to Studio Volcy and Communion LLC for your for the information that you shared tonight. We are so happy that you have come out as residents to vote. I do have to take a moment to acknowledge that to have two Black women developers, and you voted already, so the score is going to be what the score is. But either way, we have to acknowledge that that is the legacy of our community coming together and planning together. That is really our community's legacy. We said what we wanted. We put it on paper. We push through processes like the development review panel, through the Center Avenue Development Plan, through the Greater Hill District Master Plan that says we want to center the African American cultural legacy. This is a manifestation of that. So I just have to acknowledge that for us and for them and to celebrate that. All right. We got a few updates from the Hill CDC. You all saw the for sale signs go up from the URA, right? All right. Well, we had a walk with Mayor Gainey and the Urban Redevelopment Authority not too long after that. Those signs are now removed. So thank the mayor and the URA for being responsive. They are still working on what that process for sale should be. What they said was that they wanted residents to know where the sites were, but we had to explain to them that maybe some of the residents might not be able to afford some of the larger sites that were posted. So we need to probably come up with a different and more equitable process. So that's still underway, but please continue to support our work and make those phone calls. When we reach out to you, if you don't get the Hill District Weekend Roundup, go on ahead and register for the Hill District Weekend Roundup. It's the hottest news in the city. I'm telling you, it's the hottest news in the city. All right. All right. There's a call for artists for a Hill District proposal. It's due on September 9th. What day is that? That's Monday. So if you're an artist and you're interested in competing, the selected applicant will receive a total budget of $90,000. Now, I believe that the artist can only get paid up to maybe like, there's a cap on what the artist can make, but some of that is for materials and other things. So please, 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 if you're interested or if you know an artist, be sure to share this information, okay? All right. So you all know that our Greater Hill District Master Plan is one of the documents I just talked about. It was originally done in 2011. Some of you in this room participated in that process. I want to shout out Osei Akinloden from the city of Pittsburgh. She's our city planner. Go ahead and stand up for a second, Osei. Osei is one of the hardest working women in the city of Pittsburgh, primarily because she's the city planner for the Hill District, but also probably for other neighborhoods. But I wanted to recognize that because she is staffing our efforts to formally get this the community master plan adopted. Why do we want to adopt it? We want to adopt it because we believe that advocacy should be a backup plan to good policy. All right, we don't believe that we should have to get out in front of bulldozers and advocate for every single thing when really our laws should be protecting us. The policy should protect us. So what we're trying to do is get our plan that we all said we wanted formally adopted by the city so that the only time we need to show up is to say, good job, y'all following our plan. And the City Planning Commission has our backs because they are following the plan. Until we get our plan adopted, that doesn't happen. So that's a huge and important process, okay? And so that is underway. We'll have a timeline on that in a second. But we do want to recognize that Councilman Lavelle responded to one of our requests, which was to reconnect the Lower Hill District to the rest of the Hill District. All right, so go, because Councilman Lavelle was like, remember, you don't do nothing but give me a hard time. All right, so look, I do give Councilman a hard time a lot, but this is one thing that we said, look, if we want our community to be planned for, and we should rightfully have the Lower Hill reconnected to the Hill District. So now the Lower Hill District is formally, once again, a part of Crawford Roberts, okay? All right, so when you call Councilman, say, Marimba said something good about you. All right, so all the way down to the Lower Hill. I believe it includes the hotel, but I'm not sure. I think it may cut off at, it may, Doubletree. We'll get you, I think it's like right before, on Washington Place. But we'll get the exact boundary. I need to look at that a little more closely before I answer. Let me see if it's on here. Washington Place, down to Washington Place. Okay, so one of the things that we are working on as a part of the plan is the Herron Avenue Corridor Master Plan. As well, we need to see some development along Herron Avenue. We don't want Lakeisha Bird's project, assuming that you all approve it and support it and all those things, and it keeps moving through the process, which we believe it likely will, but we don't want it to be the only project up there, right? So there are a couple things that we know of. We're going to talk about those. There is some momentum, right? You got the Citizen Science Lab. You know, they sold the Martin Luther King building to Citizen Science Lab. They're having their groundbreaking next week. And then you have this project that's currently moving through the DRP. The Citizen Science Lab came here about a year ago and got voted on, if you remember. You all approved that. And then we have Choice, which is your question, right? That is also a proposal for Center Avenue. So we'll come back to that. But all that to say, we shouldn't be doing development haphazardly on Center. We have a master plan, but we don't have a detailed plan like we do for Center Avenue. So we're trying to get Herron Avenue as a part of the community plan in a more detailed manner so that we can ensure that it is specific and clear as we move forward on development. All right. Moving down to Uptown, we need an affordability study in Uptown. We are seeing rates as high as $2,900 a month in rent in Uptown. Now, you all know what that means, right? That means that if it's $2,900 a month in Uptown, it won't be long before it's $2,900 a month in the Middle Hill district, right? Because see, gentrification and displacement happen aggressively. Once it starts, it's kind of like a train, right? So we believe that it's really important to have diverse options in terms of income. We do not believe that people should be displaced because the market got so aggressive so quickly that their income couldn't keep up. Your income can't keep up in some cases, and that's what we're seeing all throughout the city. All right, so if you can afford $2,900 a month for an apartment, then you know we got a place for you. But if you can't, we got some problems, and we want those problems to be studied and responded to with policy. Okay. All right, so in order to do that, we need a study so that we can get it incorporated in our master plan. All right, does that make sense? Any questions? Go ahead, Loretta.
Regarding rent, is there any way, because there's companies like Blackstone, they're purchasing property.
Corporate buyers.
In that, is there any way that our plan can kind of shield us or kind of alert people saying, hey, this is happening, let's do something about that?
So the question is, we're seeing a lot of large corporations buy real estate, and which causes rapid displacement of residents in many cases, and also prevents people from being able to own. Is there anything we can do to prevent that? Policy. So the city will have to come up with some type of legislative response to corporate buyers. Perhaps you can't buy more than a certain number in one, transaction. I have talked to Councilman Lavelle about it. And County Councilman DeWitt Wall. Y'all know we got a county councilman too, right? Y'all do know that. We got a legislative arm for the city, that's city council. We got a legislative arm for the county, that's county council. And that's County Councilman DeWitt Walton. City of Pittsburgh is in the county. And then we got the legislative body at the state. Now we got 2 representatives, but don't get me on that. Because I'm still a little upset that they split the Hill in half. So we have Ariane Abney, who represents us from Dinwiddie Street down, and we have Latasha Mays, who represents us from Dinwiddie Street all the way out towards the East End. So we have 2 representatives on that legislative body. So we need a legislative response in order to keep these corporate buyers from buying up our city. PCRG is doing some work on that as well. So we'll try to get a more thorough and specific response next time for you, okay? Yes, ma'am.
KDKA said that a firm in Baltimore, Maryland, either bought a 270 or 290 units around Allegheny County, sight unseen.
The comment was that the news, CBS, just reported that a Baltimore firm just purchased 270 to 290 units in Pittsburgh, sight unseen, right here, right? So the point is, if folks are buying property sight unseen in Pittsburgh, you can best believe that they've already done the calculus on the increase in value for those properties, which is why we want to have site control for our neighborhood. These projects that you heard from tonight were largely under government control, right? The URA owned it, the city owned it. When it's privately owned, it takes on a whole different dimension. You can't secure the sites. Folks want to charge you triple the amount, right? It's a whole different ballgame. So that's concerning, but hopefully we can get a legislative response. I know that there was some concern expressed about whether or not that was possible, but I think anything is possible when people work together, okay? Another question.
Webster and Herron, that sort of open area where there was a gas station. They maybe we could have the plan.
Webster and Herron, last week, the question is there anything with Webster and Herron and the gas station? So the gas station has been studied by the city for remediation, because you know, gas stations tend to be considered highly toxic, and there has to be special removal. Hill CDC is very concerned about Herron Avenue, so we are in the process of evaluating what can happen on Herron as well. So that's another reason why we need to see this plan in this study, okay? All right, you're welcome. All right, so the adoption timeline for the city planning, for the Hill District Community Plan is from September to November. Okay, so we are not far out on when our plan should be formally adopted. So we are working diligently with city planning, as many of you have participated in that process as well, to get our plan formally adopted. And again, that will ensure that the city is enforcing what we said we want in our community plan, not just us coming to community meetings to say what we want, okay? So hold us to it. And if you come to the August Wilson play, you're gonna hear that line. So hold us to it, all right? All right, so to the question that we had about choice and Herron Avenue. These are the proposed sites for choice as of right now. You see, essentially, I think that's 7 sites in this picture, okay? Some have already moved forward. 49% of the choice units are to be replacement units, meaning they will replace units that are currently there. So nobody can be displaced, all right? 49%. Another 26% are going to be mixed income. So kind of low income housing tax credit, meaning 60 to 80% of the area, 20 to 80% of the area median income. What is 20% to 80% of the area median income? You've been hearing that a lot tonight, right? So AMI, one person, is $56,700. That's the area median income. And that's how many counties? A 7-county average, okay, of what one person earns. So when we say AMI, we're not talking about just Pittsburgh. We're definitely not just talking about the Hill District, right? And we're not even just talking about Allegheny County. We're talking about multiple counties, right? What does that do? That skews our numbers upward, because a lot of counties are more wealthy than Allegheny County. Yeah. All right, and this is why it's important that when we talk about AMI, that we're really clear-eyed about what that can mean for communities that are working class, working poor, and/or poor. Okay, it can mean pretty considerable displacement, even if it is considered affordable, because it's skewed upward to the other counties. So let's talk about it. All right, so one person is $56,700. 2 people for the area median income is $64,800. 4 people, 3 people is $72,900. 4 people, $80,950. Till you get to 8 people, which is $106,090. Okay, so if you have 2 incomes in the house, right, and 2 kids, you might be able to get up towards some of those higher incomes. But if you don't have 2 incomes in the house and you have children, right, you're going to be really struggling at some of those other areas, right? So say somebody comes into the community and says, oh, it's going to be affordable. We're going to do all 80% area median income. Then the question has to be, okay, who is this affordable for?
Right, right.
right? Because you could be a single parent with 2 children and you can earn, let's see, you can earn, let's say you earn $65,000, you might be, excuse me, let's say you earn over 72, you might be a little over, right? But if you earn, say even, you know, say you earn 65, right? Say you earn 65,000, you may not even be able to compete in certain situations, right? So it's a really specific calculus that you have to be clear about. So when we get in front of you and say, oh, our project is this percentage of AMI, or when developers come and say, is this percentage of AMI, we really have to be thinking about what does that mean for the people in our community? Because it might be great for another county or another neighborhood, but it might not always be the right thing for the Hill, okay? All right.
I'm not opposed to affordable.
No, I got you. But some people are, and some people think they are, right? And so it's just, we use affordable housing very liberally anymore, right? Because the question is, who is it affordable to? So back to choice, so they're gonna be 25% market rate. So market rate is basically this, right? One person who earns 56.7 can afford a 1-bedroom, maybe, right? Maybe, right? So it's going to be based on the AMI. It's not going to be based on the Hill. It's not going to be based on the city of Pittsburgh. It's not going to be based on Allegheny County. It's going to be based on that multi-county level. That's market rate in most cases, okay? All right, so here are the projects that are moving forward. They've already been voted on by the community, and they're moving forward as a part of choice. Now, City's Edge started before choice. It was likely going to happen at some point either way, but choice came and buoyed that project along. So this is started. This is City's Edge. It's under development, okay? It's under construction right now. It's expected to be completed in 2025. This is right by the city's edge, not the city's edge, is it City View. It's right by City View. So Freedom Corner, kind of down by the left side, this is where that site is. That's gonna have affordable, that's gonna have market, that's gonna have parking, that's gonna have commercial, okay? And this City's Edge project is being done by Midpoint Development under Nathaniel Bowe. Okay, another choice project that's moving forward. This is the Reed Roberts site. Have y'all driven by Reed Roberts lately?
Yeah.
How many of you driven by Reed Roberts? Okay, if you haven't driven by Reed Roberts, you should drive by Reed Roberts tonight, because Reed Roberts is under full-blown construction. You'll be surprised at how far along that project is coming. This has been DRP approved because you voted on it, all right, and the committee reviewed it. This project is being carried out by Trek Development as well as the ARMDC development. Now, the key with choice is this, for those of you who have forgotten, choice is a $50 million grant, okay, that came from the Housing and Development Department, the federal government, HUD. But it had to be leveraged to get another $350 million from local partners and stakeholders. So all that is now coming to the neighborhood, and they have to raise money from organizations like the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. All right, so this is a lot of capital, it's a lot of opportunity. Mystic is the construction worker on this particular site. So see, Ms. Roxanne, if you're interested in getting a job for yourself or a family member. All right, well, 28 people on the job already. She wanted to go on record saying that, which is great. But we know that with the site that large, there may be even more opportunities. So we want to make sure that you all are aware of that. All right, and then also there may be opportunities to live there. Now, I believe that Summers Drive residents have the first opportunity to move. Okay, they have the Summers and Chauncey have the first opportunity. Just Summers Drive. Mrs. Bogus.
No, if there are people there that don't want to go, because you can't force anybody to go anywhere, then you'll move to another process.
The next development.
Seniority.
Okay.
For Chauncey people, if they want to.
So Ms. Bogus was making clear that the first development of Reed and Roberts will be available to the Summers Drive residents. If they opt not to move, the next opportunity will go to people with the greatest seniority in Chauncey Drive and whatever else is in Bedford Dwellings. Okay, all right. So that's Reed Roberts. So go on ahead and drop by there, and make sure that, folks know, look at that. They got the elevator shaft all the way up. All right. So it's moving, right? Either we're engaged or we're not. All right.
Phase one right now.
This is just phase one. This is Miller Street. Now, I do have to give a shout out to the church that got demolished on Miller Street, you know, because that used to be a site where UNIA, which was Marcus Garvey's national or international organization, used to have their headquarters in the Hill District at that site. That was a historic site that went down without much fanfare. So, you know, we got to recognize that too. Okay, phase two, Francis Court. I think they call it Francis Street now. But Francis Court has been awarded from Pennsylvania Finance Agency. Why is that important? Because that is the largest tranche of funding that you can get to move forward on your project. So this project is going to move forward. Okay. So this here has also gone through the DRP and it was approved, but we still have to have a watchful eye because as developments unfold, particularly developments at this scale, and particularly when you're talking about public housing, things can shift, right? And so we have to be engaged and watchful. I see Ms. Brenda, I see Ms. Bogus. These are people who live in that area and they know what's happening on the ground. So we need to stay engaged at all times, okay? All right. Yes, ma'am.
How does one go about preserving historical landmarks on the Hill? And just finding out what they are, the process, was that part of the voting process?
Well, it was gone by the time that it came through the process. There was a fire, which was very surprising because it had been there for so long. So there was a fire, and then it was gone. So this went through the process after, this Miller Street development went through the process after that happened. But we do have a project called the Hill District Digital History Project, which we love that project, but it has documented a lot of historical sites throughout the neighborhood. We've been partnering with Slippery Rock University on this project. So if you're interested, please come to our office and we'd be happy to talk to you about that. And we would like to preserve as many landmarks as we possibly can as well, and particularly contextualizing them in what's happening in the future. That's why we say cultural legacy meets future innovation. Okay? You're welcome. All right, let's breeze through these and then we're gonna wrap. The Lower Hill, this is our last one. So you wanna know the Lower Hill, the red dot represents that it's in the fulfillment process. You see the tower? It's in the fulfillment process, so what color is it? All right, you see the entertainment venue and the parking? At least half of it is in early stage fulfillment, so it's red. The rest of it is in kind of negotiations and regulation and all types of other stuff, okay? Is that clear? All right. So we just have to point out that this was declined by the development review panel, not because we didn't want to approve it, but because they abandoned the process when they didn't get what they needed on the first meeting. So we have two developers here who, if it didn't work out at the first meeting, what do? You come back to the committee, you talk it out, you say, okay, I can do this, but I can't do that. And then you end up at the community and you give the community their rightful opportunity to vote on the project. You don't leave the process and just say, well, whatever, right? That doesn't work out well because what you're doing is really denying community input. Okay, so this particular one, for block G1, where the tower is going up, as well as the green space that's happening, both abandoned the community process. Okay, so they were declined, mostly because the benefits that were promised in their open letter to the community did not get fulfilled. Okay, we've talked about this. You can read about this on our website. You can go to our Hill District Weekend Roundup and read all the history you want. But the bottom line is the benefits didn't get fulfilled at the level that they should have for that one that got denied, which was block G1 and blocks F. Now, what's going on with block E? This one's gotten a little complex. So they split block E in two. So the entertainment venue has been split in two. There is the entertainment venue and then there's the parking garage. All right, so it's been split in two. So Buccini Polling Group is no longer working on the concert venue. So that's the developer who did write the letter. they are no longer working on the project, at least on the entertainment venue. Now Live Nation and FSG, the Penn's owners, are working on the music venue, okay? The development team still has to finalize commitments for New Granada, which they have been working in good faith to, and they have also submitted to the DRP. That's an improvement because the last developers didn't even submit to the DRP for, well, once they didn't get their way, they abandoned the process. This developer has been in the process and has been working. So we'll keep you apprised of that, and hopefully you'll get an opportunity to vote. Now, what you need to know is in the meantime, the project has gotten greenlit by the Urban Redevelopment Authority and the Sports and Exhibition Authority, okay? And the reason why we still do our process is because irrespective of what's happening down there, you can't take our power unless we give it to you, okay? So folks are still in the process and working in good faith, and they cannot close until they have made some commitments. And why does this happen? Because we keep showing up. This is the Urban Redevelopment Authority public meeting. We keep showing up. So when we put out the call, come on out to the Urban Redevelopment Authority, come on out to the Sports and Exhibition Authority, come to the City Council hearing. We need you to show up, okay? So here's the status of benefits. The URA Black Business and Retail Incubator Space is committed. The $2 per ticket surcharge on every ticket sold is committed. The Curtain Call project, the beautiful art project that so many people worked on, the Penns have still not made their funding commitment, and they have kicked the can down the road once again on that project. First Source Hiring Center and training for the concert venue jobs, that's one of the things we're asking about at the DRP level. MWBE sustainability and workforce development, that is a part of the community benefits agreement on the Lower Hill. We have requested evidence from the Urban Redevelopment Authority and the Sports and Exhibition Authority that Live Nation has committed to that, okay? These other things are outstanding. New Granada support, like I said, they have been working in good faith. That's Live Nation specifically. Ammon Youth Recreation Center, they delayed that funding again, and the city allowed them to do that. So there was not much that we could do about it because the city said, well, it was supposed to come with the parking, and well, the parking is not moving forward, so you don't have to make all that payment now. But we don't feel great about that. We don't feel great about that, okay? And then last but certainly not least, the DRP process is underway. So we are grateful that at least Live Nation has been involved in the DRP, but we want to see them finish that process. We just had to give a shout out to Walter Hood. Walter Hood is an African-American landscape architect. So you know how you have an architect that designs buildings? You also have an architect that designs parks and green spaces and all the beautiful outdoor spaces you see. He is one of the most well-regarded landscape architects in the world. His work has been on exhibit at the Smithsonian, okay? He's the one who designed the curtain call that hasn't been funded, and he did it with community. So we want to see this project come to fruition. Okay, I'm not going to talk to you anymore about the curtain call or anything else, but you can scan this barcode if you want to read the detailed report of what happened and why we keep pushing for this project, because we want to see promises delivered on, okay? All right. So what we need, I'm coming to questions in 1 second. So we need you to continue to call upon the mayor, our city council person, the URA and the SEA to fulfill promises on Block E for both parcels, but also on any other blocks. I mean, the bottom line is do what you said you're going to do. We're not going to change our minds on that, okay? So that's where we are. We will keep you apprised of the development review panel for the music venue specifically. We hope that they will have an opportunity to present to you directly, and we'll keep you apprised of that as it unfolds. Okay, questions? Reverend Walls. So at the URA meeting, okay, so the question is, where is the curtain call now? So at the URA meeting, when it got a little hot and heavy with the residents showing up, the Penns said that they were going to move it back to in front of the arena. It was originally in front of the curtain call, in front of the PPG Paints Arena. And it kind of like, you know, would wind down from up top down to Fifth Avenue, okay? Then they said, oh no, we're gonna move it. We're gonna move it up to Wylie and Crawford, okay? But then at the URA meeting, they said, we're gonna move it back. right? And so they've been allowed to explore that option, which I think is infeasible, but ultimately we'll have to vet that out as a community. At the end of the day, just put the money in an escrow account as far as I'm concerned. Okay, Deidre.
So the $2 that, per parking ticket that for the garage that was supposed to come back to the Hill, can they still do $2? Because they're still making a whole lot of money off of the space, even though the garage isn't there.
So the question is, can the $2 per parking ticket for the parking garage still come back to the Hill District? So that's a complex question because one, there was supposed to be what's called a parking tax diversion from the garage. And that was supposed to go to a housing stabilization fund. But since there is no garage, there's also no parking tax diversion for the garage, which means that there's no housing stabilization fund as a result of that money. In the meantime, the URA has taken their rights back for all of the parking that's happening on the lower hill. So the URA is now collecting all the parking revenue on the lower hill. And so that's going to the URA, from what I understand, into a special fund, but we don't have any details about that special fund yet, so we'll keep you updated on that. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
As clear as it can be.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other question? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so the CDC, shared the French Street reunion flyer, but didn't make sure I got a donation.
Oh, the question is, who from the Hill CDC shared the Francis Street reunion flyer, but didn't give a donation? Well, I guess I can take responsibility for sharing it because I sent it to my staff and told them to make sure people know about it. And since I'm the president and CEO, I also have to take responsibility for not giving a donation, but I don't think we got a request for a donation.
They got a request.
From who?
Me.
Okay, when did I talk to you?
No,
Okay.
got back to
Oh, okay. Okay, well, we can talk about a donation. We don't always do donations. We are a nonprofit ourselves, but we'll do what we can. Okay?
If y'all want to do beans again, I don't want that.
We never did beans.
Y'all did. Yes, y'all did.
Oh, we did? Okay. That's that. I'll talk to Diane about the beans. But, yes, ma'am.
Is there some way we can get a list of all the promises that were made? So we can begin to talk with residents within the community.
Absolutely.
So we need that, everything that was promised that hasn't been fulfilled yet.
We will make sure, the question was, can we get a list of all of the promises made but not delivered? And we will make sure that a republication of the Hill District Weekend Roundup with that information goes out to the people who registered tonight, okay? All right, so, but we can only do that if we got your email address, so make sure you've left your email address. Okay, any other questions? Yes, Loretta.
URA meetings. I was at the URA meeting.
Thank you.
November was there, and let me tell you, stand up and tell you, he's a force to be reckoned with. Okay.
Thank you, Loretta. Loretta was just encouraging, once again, encouraging people to come out to these meetings, specifically the public meetings and the URA meeting, and she was giving shout out to the Hill CDC, which we thank you for. Okay. I think that's it. Please hold mark this date in your calendar. This is going to be a week before Thanksgiving. This is the week before Thanksgiving. Okay. But we may have some important projects to vote on because there are some at committee level. So please mark your calendars. And if you want to stay connected with us, go to our Facebook, go to our Instagram, go to our LinkedIn, go to our YouTube and stay connected. All right. Thank you. We appreciate you all. And please be sure to give your ballot to Shelley. And if you've watched this meeting, please be sure to vote. Thank you.